Hey, and happy Monday, everyone. Hello and happy Monday. By the way, it's Monday. Did you know that? If you're just tuning in, you're tuned in to WRLR 98.3, The Life. Today, Tiffany couldn't make it here on Bacon Bits, so I've got two very, very special guests, my boys, my sons, Nate and Luke over here. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So today what we're going to be talking about is catastrophizing. All right. And so for those of you out there in Radioland who are tuning in for the very first time, let me tell you a little something about Bacon Bits. Our show here is every Monday on WRLR, 7 o'clock Central Time. And Bacon Bits with Master Happiness is all about helping you discover some new paths to happiness. We understand there's lots of reasons to be angry, sad, and afraid. So what we're trying to do is share some shortcuts to Happy Town. All right. And so today we're going to be talking about catastrophizing, why people are so upset all the time. Why do people look for the worst case scenario when they don't necessarily have to? So again, what I did was I brought in two specialists in this. They cause probably more catastrophe than feeling catastrophic. All right.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly why I brought you guys in for this specific episode. Hopefully the reason Tiffany's not here is not a catastrophe. Hopefully it's just something fun and exciting that she's doing. All right. So let's keep our fingers crossed and legs crossed and whatever else you want to cross.
I'm crossing my fingers, Marty.
And a girl. All right. All right. So have you guys ever heard the story of Chicken Little? Yeah.
Yes, of
you
course.
have. Nate, have you ever heard of the story of Chicken Little?
Where the sky is falling?
Yeah.
Never
That's
heard of it.
Never, right? Because that's the epitome of catastrophe. This little chicken running around, and he thought an acorn fell on his head. He thought the sky was falling, and then he got all excited. He got, thought everything was ending. And he ran around the land screaming and yelling, saying the sky was falling. And then he ran into people like, I'm going to call her Jenny Penny, because I don't think I can say Henny Penny, because that might be trademarked. So ran into like Jenny Penny, Lucky Ducky, Lammy Ham Sandwich, all kinds of these characters, until running into Foxy Loxy, who then took advantage of them, said, "Here, hide in my belly," and ate them all. So that's the problem with catastrophizing things. You end up getting eaten by a cool cat named Foxy Loxy. All right, so we don't want to do that, right?
No.
All right. So again, the reason I brought you two guys here, aside from those wonderful ad libs that you just suddenly jump into, all right, I don't know what's going on with the computer over here. It's like someone's doing something with the computer. Look at this. You see that?
Wow, that's
It's
crazy.
like someone took over the computer and they're playing some promos. Wow, this is really neat. There's a ghost of which is all very exciting for you people listening, because you can't see what's going on. But anyway, we'll go back to this. We'll ignore the computer. What's going on? Hopefully you can still hear what's going on. So the reason I brought you two guys is that because of you, I don't view anything a catastrophe, because I look at you guys and I go, it couldn't get any worse, right?
Always good to know I have somebody who believes in me.
Yes, you know it. Nate here took the easy way out to become my son. He just married my daughter, as opposed to having to live with me his entire life. Luke is the true hero here.
I signed up for the full tour.
That's right. That's right. And between you two and all the daughters I have, wow, I'm telling you, life is grand. So would you guys consider yourself the catastrophic type? Do you look at the worst case scenario or the best case scenario?
I think I'm usually a best case scenario kind of guy.
Okay. Like what's the worst? Like, give me an example of like a potential bad problem that you're like, hey, you know what? It could also end up okay.
Well, we were out of town last weekend. We went out of town for our anniversary.
Nice.
And the instructions for the Airbnb were, do not manually lock the door on your way out.
Cool.
And
nice.
I was sent them by my very loving wife, who goes, here's all the information you need to know. This is everything we need. And on my way out the door, manually locked the door.
Good
and
for you.
Locked us out of the Airbnb roughly 15 minutes within checking in.
Nice.
And
do it early. Do it often.
Right, yeah. So I was looking around, and it was I saw there was a lockbox next to the door.
Yeah.
So I was like, in my mind, I like, they had a told us anything, but I was like, there's probably like a key to get back inside, but I didn't know for sure. So it's like, I just locked us out of where we're staying for the evening.
All right.
And, I don't know how we're getting back in.
So what was that immediate feeling? Did you have that little, like, drama feeling? Did you feel like, oh, like this is awful? Did you get mad at yourself or laugh at yourself?
It was more just funny. I was like, of course I wouldn't read the one thing. Like, I had very little things to do on this, and I was like, I'm not going to read what was sent to me, and locked us out of the Airbnb.
Right. Now, see, I like that attitude, because a lot of people would just go, oh my God, I can't believe this. Now what are we going to do? This is awful. As opposed to, we're in a city, right? It's not like this is our only shelter in the middle of the jungle and it's pouring rain on us or something like that. The problem is solvable.
Right.
So there's no reason to jump to a crazy conclusion. Yeah. Right.
I was already doing the math. I'm like, we're 2.5 hours from home. I've got my truck keys in my pocket. Worst case scenario, we drive home and sleep in my bed.
Exactly.
Best case, I hire a locksmith and I'm out $200 to get back into my Airbnb.
There you go. Break a window. There's all kinds of ways in.
People love that.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's exactly why people put their homes up for Airbnb.
That's actually how you get the best stars on Airbnb, is if you damage a window.
That's all right. I like that. Good to know. What about you there, Luke? Are you a best case scenario, a worst case scenario kind of guy, or middle, or you don't even carry a case?
I think I'm a weird scenario, because I was trying to think about this on the way here, and I think my general thought process when it comes to if something bad happens is I will kind of catastrophize a little. I'll be like, oh, this is awful, this is terrible.
Yes,
but that brings me a weird zen, where it's like, well, this is the worst that could happen. So
right. I
guess let's just keep going.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm a little bit of both, where I could probably work on reframing, but in the end, I'm just like, well, what can you do,
I tend to agree with you. I'm more of the type of person, I know my knee-jerk reaction sometimes, not all the time, is, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is just terrible. This is, the sky really is falling. Mm-hmm. And then I have learned from one way or another that taking that helicopter view, like leaving the scenario and taking the narrator's view and standing and looking at it going, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. Why are you overreacting? Let's just take a moment and think about it. Okay. But there are some people who can't get past that. And I always like sharing stories about that, but I don't like sharing names because, who knows, that person might actually be listening and going, what, are you telling that story about me? So no, I don't like doing this, but I know plenty of people that I've met throughout life that it was always that way. I've worked with some guys that were just, no matter what went on, it can't be done. It can't be done. When we were working in an R&D department, it was amazing. Every idea you threw out, it was like, no, that can't be done. That's impossible. It's never been done. And it's like, why are you even in this department? Why are you inventing something new if you truly believe nothing can ever be done? And so it's that type of mentality that we want to kind of discuss. Now, I know you guys spent the whole week doing a lot of homework on this, and I really appreciate that. So
that's why we're here.
Exactly, because you are the experts. Okay, is some of the stuff that I dug into was this whole idea of misguided coping skills, that some people believe they have these coping skills, that they can handle this. But what they actually do is they just allow the worst case scenario to take over. And they just go, that's it. I'm going to live with it. There's nothing I can do. And all bad things are going to happen. And if something good happens, well, it's just a matter of time before something bad happens. Mm-hmm. And so we probably have met people like that, right? Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And isn't it awful? If you think about that, would you really want to live your entire life with that attitude?
It's got to just be exhausting. Like at some point, you're just like, I'm so tired. Like everything is terrible.
I know, right?
Like we all meet those people. Like you meet them, like, how's it going? And they're like, I'm making it. And you're like, well, that's right, it. You're making it. Yeah. Like it's not even like an okay day. You're just like, I just got by.
Can't get any worse. Well, give it time.
Yeah,
give it time.
Oh, man.
You don't know. Yeah.
Right, and it's hilarious when you poke fun at it, but it's sad because there are people who live like that and they can't get past it. And while I was doing some reading and some research, it's interesting that a lot of people learn this from their parents because they see maybe their parents go through a catastrophic incident. They see something and they're like, wow, my parents couldn't get through this. And they see this and they're raised at an early age that they see these events and they're like, well, then that normalizes it and says that's how I'm supposed to live my life in that type of that realm of reality. And so with today's show, I really want to fight that. I want to teach people, let's get past that. Okay, let's understand that bad things can happen and bad things do happen, but good things can happen and good things do happen. Okay, they were coming up with a quote or a percentage that they said when we catastrophize, 90% of the time, that's not what happens. So why do we concentrate on the 90% chance of it being awful as opposed to the 10% chance of it being okay, at least okay, if not great?
I think part of it is because, like, everybody expects that everything's going to be okay. Like, the general, like, human mindset is, like, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be right. So when everything is going okay, everybody's like, yeah, this is as it should be. It does not register in any way. And the minute something goes wrong, everybody's like,
I knew it.
I knew this was going to happen. This is terrible. I can't believe this happened to me.
Right.
Why me? Why me? I'm like, it's the victim mentality, which is so easy to fall into rather than looking at something and going, okay, this isn't great. How am I going to make this a positive in my life?
Right. And I think sometimes it's because there's an effort to it. To make things positive. There's an effort to it. Because sometimes life tucks you in at night. Yeah, exactly. That was a mixture of like 3 different sentences in my head. Sometimes life sucks. It is tough, okay? And we have to be able to fight for it. And when there's a lot of people that anticipate the worst case scenario, so what they end up doing is they agitate the situation. They make sure the worst case happens so that then, in a way, they're like, well, now I'm not hurt because I knew this was going to happen. I prepared for it, and that's the worst case scenario. And so that's the end of it. Okay?
Do you think any of it is like plausible deniability? They're just like, well, I knew this was going to happen, and it happened, so there was nothing I could have done.
Right, right. And that's why I'm saying that's the easy out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always.
And so I'm reminded 2 times. There was this one time when I was in high school, and I remember taking the bus back and forth to school, and I was passing by this shop that I really wanted a job at. Okay, I just kept seeing this, and it was the first time I ever saw anyone classify themselves as a marketing company. They had mannequins in the window, and they did store decorations, right? And I thought, I want to do that. I can do that, right? And I would go back and forth, and I would cross through, and I kept saying to myself, I'm going to walk into the place, knock on the door. I know they don't have a help wanted sign, but I'm going to walk in and say, you need to hire a really young, creative guy, and that's me. There's nobody more creative than me. I can really do this. I want to learn your business from the bottom up, right? And I was building myself up. As I got off the bus that stopped, walked to the store, as I did this, everything somehow inside me just crushed and fell apart. Opened the door, and I go, you're not hiring, are you? And they go, no, we're not hiring. I'm like, okay. Turned around and walked out. After pumping myself up, because this is what I'm meaning, is that it's so much easier to quit. It's really easy to quit.
So easy.
Yeah, I quit, and so I quit. I never even asked that guy, why, never give him a reason to hire me. I just quit before he even had a chance. And so then it was like, he wasn't going to hire me anyway. I have no experience. He wasn't looking to hire anyone. He probably doesn't need anyone. I came up with 1,000 excuses to say no. Okay. And unfortunately, when I was younger, too, that's exactly how I dated. All right. I would look at a girl and go, oh, she's really attractive. Hey, I got stuff together. I'm cool. I'm dateable. She would be happy to date a guy like me. Walk up to her and do the exact same thing. You don't want to go out, do you? So she'd be like, yes. Yeah, I knew you didn't want to go out and walk away. And I was like going, oh, struck out again. That was my best pickup line. You don't want to go out with me, do you?
All reliable.
Right. Oh, yeah.
What could go wrong?
100% of the time, it turned out exactly that it was supposed to. Never got the date, right? So that's how it was. So the only way I ended up dating at that age was I stayed at the party long enough so it was me and a woman were the only 2 left at the party. Hey, we're on a date. Look at us. So that's how I always dealt with it. And I think that what ends up happening is those people, like I said, they fall in line. They saw this happen, and catastrophe, or the world is falling apart, the sky is falling, etc. That's the easy way out. That's the easy way to deal with life. Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Luke? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I got a story.
Please share away.
I work with this woman.
Currently?
Currently.
Oh, this will be an interesting story. Hopefully she's not listening. Well, unless it's a great story.
Well, you're lucky I don't plug this to anyone.
All right, good. Thank you.
I work with this woman, big catastrophizer.
Nice.
And a while there, for like a week or so, we were having trouble where our entire system would crash.
Okay.
So we couldn't take any orders. No orders were coming in. We couldn't even accept cash payment because our registers just weren't on. So we couldn't track it down. So it was just awful. And what her job was, she had to call the people who are in charge of our systems to fully reboot it. And when she called them, she was like, I can't do this because they're telling me they're going to guide me through step by step what I have to do to reset this, and I can't because I'm technology blind. I just don't know what to do.
Wow.
And in my mind I was like, but they're going to tell you,
they're
step by step what to do. But I think that's what it is. Apparently something's printing in the room.
All kinds of things happening in this booth today. Right.
But it just makes you think, like, I think that is what that mindset does to you, is it just makes you think, I cannot do this, so it's not going to happen. Right. Even if people are going out of their way saying, hey, we're going to tell you everything you have to do. We're going to like set the bridge in front of you. You can't just get a person to walk. They have to do it themselves.
Yeah, and I think it's so what do you think that type of fear is? Because I've met plenty of people like that saying, all right, it's not that difficult. Let me walk you through it. Let me show you how to do it. No. I don't do that. I can't figure that out. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm in that mindset for the longest time that I always say, yeah, of course I can do that. All right. And then I jump in and learn it as I go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I always look at what's the worst that'll happen. All right. It's never like the best that can happen weighs the worst that can happen in most things. I mean, I'm not going to go and say, I could wrestle a grizzly, okay? I'm not going to go that far, but there's a lot of things that I just say, yeah, I can do that, and I go out and then just learn it because I know I have the capacity to do things, all right? So what do you think is the root for something like that? Is it public humiliation? Is it a fear in general? Is it a comfort place they found? What do you think? What do you think's the root of this type of personality?
I think a lot of it is a fear of failure.
Okay, sure.
There's a lot of people that they're very comfortable. They know, they're like, I can do this and I'm good at this and I'm very comfortable doing this, and they're worried that if they try something new and they're bad at it, that people are going to be like, oh, they were bad at that.
Right,
and I have one person in particular that I interact with on a daily basis, and they go, oh, I don't do text messages.
I love that. Right. All right.
And
good.
And it's difficult for me because they're 56 years old.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Which is of an older generation than I am. But not,
still darn young.
But not of a generation that it is like, I'm not trying to teach a 93-year-old with dementia what a cell phone is. It's something that's they're they can run a computer and they can run email and
so it's not that difficult.
But they text messages isn't their thing. And it's difficult because like, oh, you're my generation, we don't do text messages. But by the same token, I interact with somebody who's 73 who I text on a daily basis.
Okay, sure.
And it's like, what is their real reason? Is it because they don't want to? Are they being obstinate? Are they just like, I don't need to do this? Or is it actually something rooted much deeper where they are scared that if they don't conform to society's expectation, like if you text you're going to get a response right away, you're going to be able to do everything the way you're supposed to, they're afraid of failing. They're like, I don't think I'm going to be good at that, so I'm just not going to do it at all.
So I can and then in society we give people that out.
Right.
Oh, there's too much texting going on. No one talks anymore. Okay, good. Then I won't text.
Right.
And the reason they're not texting is they're afraid of texting.
Right.
And they're using this society says we shouldn't be texting that much as the excuse.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of stuff deep down inside that people have to get dig into themselves. I was digging into this one thing. We always talk about this, and we don't mention the number enough, that we know the number 911 in case there's an emergency. There's the other number that is 811. Okay, 811. I hope I'm doing it right. It's either that or it's 988. No, it's 811. That Now somebody's going to call in. Nope, it's 988. But anyway, it's one of those two numbers where it's the suicide hotline. So it's very important that I get it right. Yeah. So one of you two Google that, will you? Sure. Is take a look at that. And it's more about that idea that when things are falling apart, when you are catastrophizing and for whatever reason you've put yourself in that state and you can't get past it, all right, how do you deal with it? Yeah. Like, where do you go from there? What's the number?
It is 988.
It is 988. Good, 988. Good. So it's not 811. It's 988. Yes, 988. And so you have someone to talk to who can kind of like talk you off that ledge, literally, so that you're realizing, hey, it's not that bad. And you know what? The only way we really learn is by failing. You got to try something and you fall over, okay, over and over and over again until you actually learn it and you're pretty good at it. I think it's tougher the longer you wait and you suddenly realize your peer group suddenly is doing it and they're getting better and better. And now you're like, oh, I'm the last person, so I'm really going to look like a fool in front of these people. So I'm still in that mindset of if there's a new piece of technology, I love technology. I love jumping into it and just, hey, there's a new program or something. I want to try it. And I almost like it sometimes where I'm like, I am totally confused on this. I don't know how this works. And I don't mind if people I talk to laugh at me and go, what are you, goofy? You don't know how that works? Because I'm like, well, then just teach me. Let me show me this. And we are in a world that even if I don't want to talk to somebody, I can Google everything.
Absolutely.
Unless you don't know how to Google. then you're kind of stuck. Right. Then you got to call Nate. Okay. Where you can reach him at 988, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. So with that, I want to talk about I want to face this in two different ways. First off, when we're alone, how we deal with this. If I'm catastrophizing, how do I deal with this? And we're going to apply some bacon to that, but not the bacon for chewing.
The bacon for doing.
Oh, you guys are sweethearts. All right, you're absolutely right. So we solved the world's problems with that acronym, BACON. So we're going to look at this, how, if I'm all by myself, what should I be doing to handle this stress? And then secondly, another set of bacon, another BACON, about how we can help other people deal with this. Because let me ask you this, have you ever been, like you say you guys have worked with people who catastrophize like this. Have you been with somebody who is so extreme to a point where it's frustrating to you, where you're like, I can't believe this? I mean, you're kind of touching on that, Nate, where you're like, come on, this is making my job harder. Mm-hmm. But I've been with people where they really push it to the point. I'm like, the sky is really not falling. Take a deep breath. Let's move forward. And it's like, I can't do this. And then I feel bad because I'm like, should I have done something different to handle the situation?
You know what's interesting is I have dealt with someone who catastrophizes everything, and it was, for the longest time, it was something that just irked my very being, because I would go into a situation where all day, every day, I interacted with them, and that everything was a problem. Everything was the worst scenario. Yes. This is a huge deal. And I actually, and it was just an interesting thing I figured out was they were catastrophizing everything because they were not feeling like they had enough attention paid to them as a person.
Yeah.
And so they would... Any situation they were in was a huge ordeal because they wanted someone to look at them and talk to them and ask them what was going on.
Right.
And I found that if I started my day by engaging them, asking them how the night before was, how their weekend was, what was going on in their personal life, the day that followed, they were very much less over the top or dramatic about what was going on. And it was them using it actually as a ploy.
Sure.
To just be noticed and get some attention paid to them.
Yeah. I think you're onto something, and I just want to make sure that we understand when you're saying it was a ploy, it wasn't like they're necessarily doing it on purpose.
No,
it's something inside.
Absolutely not.
Just take a look at you go really early on, babies, right? Mm-hmm. When you're thinking of babies sitting at home with their family, right? The baby's got a dirty diaper. Starts screaming like it's the end of the world. Mm-hmm. The baby's hungry. The baby's got gas. Screaming like it's a catastrophe. Because, well, first off, it doesn't have much else going on. It doesn't have anything else to compare it to, right? But in order, its life safety mechanism is to make it a catastrophe so someone comes and helps them. And what ends up happening as a parent, one of my jobs has always got to be is to push you to the point of saying, take care of it yourself. Because if everything you do is a catastrophe and I'm always there to save you, then that's exactly what you're looking for in a relationship as you grow up. And you can't handle it yourself. So the more that a parent can push a child and saying, yeah, you're suffering, figure a way out of it. I'll be here. I won't let you drown, but in the meantime, you have to learn to swim. Okay? And that's what's really important. A lot of parents can't do that. And what happens is then we get adults who the only way that they feel affection or a connection is by catastrophizing.
Absolutely.
Because then everything is falling apart because that's when a loved one came to my rescue. So I love how you brought that up, Nate. Perfect. Wow. Nate, you are making up for being so quiet on previous shows.
Well, that's what it's here for.
That's right. All right. So the bacon for helping people who are catastrophizing is really quick. We're going to do this. The BACON. So B is believe in their fears.
Yes.
Okay. A is address their concerns. C is change the narrative. O is offer support. And N is normalize help-seeking. All right? So, notice how that fits into the BACON so perfectly.
Wow.
This is the genius of this show. All right? So the first thing is the reason I brought up that whole idea, have you ever been frustrated with someone who catastrophizes? So that B is believe in their fears. And sometimes that takes so much empathy to sit there going, I don't know what you're going through, okay, but I have to trust you enough that you're going through something. So I believe something's really scaring you. And I think the way that I learned to accept it is just kind of say, babies go through this, all right, because this is how they have to do this. And this is a real fear to them. This is something that is traumatizing to them unless I help them. And so even as we get older, we can deal with certain things, but I can't genuinely feel what you're going through, okay? And a small paper cut may be traumatizing to you compared to someone else who is like a compound fracture, and they're screaming and yelling, and you're like, well, I got this paper cut because I've got nothing else to compare it to, and that's the worst that happened to me. So until something gets worse, that's a catastrophe, right? And so this whole believing in fears, and I don't know, do you guys have any way that you can say, other than saying, I understand that this has got to be scary for you. I'm trying to understand. Do you have any other ways that you would say is a good way to understand someone's fears? What do you think? And they both look at each other, scared. I don't know. Is he talking to me?
I'm feeling in their place right now.
That's right.
I think it's just try to think back, because I think we've all been frustrated or just had a really low point at some point where we've just thought to ourselves, oh, why does this always happen to me?
Right.
When it really doesn't always happen to you. You just, like Nate said earlier, you just think about the times it does happen.
Right.
And you just compound that. I think by putting ourselves in that place or like relating to them and saying, well, I felt like this at one point, so I understand. Even if you don't necessarily do it as frequently as they do,
right?
It can still be like, well, how would this feel if I was feeling like this all the time?
Sure. Yeah. I like that. And so it's tough when we talk about sympathizing with someone or empathizing. Empathizing is when you're like really trying to walk a mile in their shoes, okay? Trying to put yourself in there. And I always believe it's really tough to empathize. I can say I think I know how you feel, but that has never made me feel better. If I'm feeling lousy and someone goes, I know how you feel. No, I'm feeling pretty lousy. And if you knew how I felt, so I like this whole thing of saying rather, I can only imagine how you feel. I don't know. This has got to be rough for you, so I'm here for you. That type of thing. And maybe try to just get them to talk it out a little bit. All right, but it's just to show them I believe in your fears. Something's really bothering you. And now is not the time to go, so let's take a look at your childhood. Okay, let's take a look at what's bugging you right now. All right, and that leads into the A, which is address their concerns. Okay, and that's this whole idea of trying to figure out what is the root cause. That's the next step. After you've calmed them down a little bit about saying, I believe in your fears. I see something's bugging you. Let's address the concerns. Is this the thing that's really bothering you, or is it something else? Okay, that's why I like that's why I was asking, what do you think the root cause is sometimes? Is it that you're afraid to fail? Is it you're afraid that somebody's going to look down upon you? That, what is it inside you? Let's try to address that, and let's see if we can come up with a solution to that.
I think an important step in all of this is kind of the solutions or support step, which is kind of like right in the middle of where you're going, is where like we identify it. But like sometimes like people, when they're in the middle of a catastrophe, they do not want the solutions right away. No. I mean, they want you to go, yeah, that sucks.
Right.
And they want you to know that, they want to know that you are in agreement and have.
And they've got to live through it a little bit.
I know sometimes people will come to me with something, and right away I'm like, in my mind, I'm a very negative but also a positive person. Okay. So instantly I'm just even trying to look for solutions. Yeah. And sometimes they're not ready.
No.
They want to be validated, and then, like you said, then you got to start warming up for the solutions and how to help them with it. That's a very important step to be at.
A great video that I pointed out, I'm sure to you, Luke. I don't know if I pointed it out to you, Nate. It's from Saturday Night Live, and it's called "It's Not the Nail," or "It's Not About the Nail." And it's a great scenario like that, and it's about a couple talking, and the woman has a nail in her forehead, right? And she is complaining that she's got this awful headache and everything is terrible, and he's like, if we just take a look at the nail, and she's like, I'm not looking for a solution. And it's a great scenario, but it illustrates how funny that is and how you have to approach it from different sides, because you're absolutely right. Sometimes people aren't looking for the solution at that point, okay? And you have to be able to just be there for the support and say, okay, when you are ready for a solution, if you want my help, I'm here for you. Okay, and that's what's really tough, because I'm one of those kind of people too, that I want to look for the solution. I want to fix this and move on to the next step. And sometimes the real solution is keep my mouth shut and just be a good listener. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a tough one. And while Luke sits there nodding, listening well, see, Luke's a good listener.
I'm an amazing listener.
He is. Really? What did I say? Okay.
Something.
All right.
Something around a nail.
There you go. So that's so far we've got believe in their fears, address their concerns, and C is change the narrative. And sometimes, and I think that we're all three reasonably funny guys, and Nate. And so what ends up happening, the idea of changing the narrative, is sometimes what you have to do is kind of break the tension. And comedy is one of those ways that I do it. And man, I know few people who've crossed the line worse than I do, because I crossed the line where I introduce comedy at the wrong time a little too often sometimes, and I'll admit that. I'm not going to change, but I will admit that, okay? But I think it's important sometimes when things are really, really rough and we're already looking at the worst-case scenario and we're saying it can't get any worse than this, well, then why not make a joke of the whole thing? Why not still come up with a way to laugh at it and lighten the tension a little bit? Okay, and comedy is, to me, the most effective and the easiest way to do this, because it's such a difference. It's the coin flipped completely over. I'm petrified. I'm scared from whatever, and now we're just going to laugh at the situation. We're going to laugh at ourselves, laugh at the situation, laugh at the outcome, everything like that. Any other ways that you guys find that it makes any sense to change the narrative, to switch it around? In other words, breaking the tension, moving people away from their pain?
Yeah, when you originally read that, I was kind of thinking of it differently. You said change the narrative. I wasn't as much thinking about breaking the tension. I was more thinking trying to illuminate this situation by saying, look at it like this. Like it kind of like what we were talking about earlier.
Works. Yeah.
Examine yourself from a larger view. Like look down at yourself and think about it like this, because then I think it will seem less big and less world-ending to you if you change that. If you change how you're
viewing it, take a different mindset.
Narrative.
Right? Yeah. No, I like that. It's just, in other words, it's still the same thing. Your answer is just not introducing comedy. It's still breaking the tension of saying, let's view the problem with clearer heads. Let's take a look at it. Let's do that helicopter view. Leave the situation, look at it, and say, is it that bad? I hesitate to say, well, it could get worse. Okay, I don't want to do that. What about you, Nate? Any clues on how to change the narrative, break the tension, change the mood?
Yeah, no, I think just going off what Luke said, I mean, the perspective is anything. And so if you can introduce perspective without taking away from their feelings, you can't go to them and be like, what you're feeling is not significant because in the grand scheme of things, we're on a gigantic earth and it's not important. But if you can get them to just shift their perspective in the entire situation and just like focusing on any positives you can find in it, no matter how small they are. Be like, yeah, this sucks right now. But here's something you're going to take away from this, and even something that they can look at it and be like, this is not a total loss or a total waste of my time or my energy or anything. Just a little piece. If you can kind of dial in on that and get them to focus on that, it can shift the entire situation.
Gotcha. So my father, see, you guys missed out on him. So if there was something like, as a kid, falling and like skinning your knee and you thought, oh, this is awful, right? So he would do one of two things. He would either crack a joke, like do the whole, we'll pull my finger, that type of thing. Or he would say, watch this, and he'd smack you, slap you in the wound, like skin my knee, and he'd slap you in that, and you'd scream, and he's like, see? And you thought it hurt bad before, okay? And that was his attitude. So when if I hurt myself and I saw my father coming, I suddenly put a smile on my face because I know his way of changing the narrative. But it's just that same thing that I think it's important to and I'm going to repeat what you were saying, Nate, when the person is ready, help them change that narrative. Help them look upon it in a different way, whether it's just logically, whether it is funny or something in between there. Have them look at the situation with fresh eyes, okay? And I think that's going to be very important. Okay, so that's the BAC. O is offer support, which we definitely talked about right from the beginning, is never overlook that. Never look the power of just being there. When I never understood when I was younger, when we would go to a funeral, okay, and I never understood as a kid, we would just sit there, and I'm like, what are we doing here? We're just sitting here, all right, and you're not, well, can we play a game or something? And it'd be like, no, we're sitting here. Why? It's because just being present was the support that somebody needed. They needed every once in a while to look around and say, look at how many people were here at the funeral. When somebody had lost someone that really meant something to them, to see so many people just sitting there in support, in quiet, silent support, just meant the world to some people. So offering support comes in so many different ways. This whole idea is, hey, I'll sit here quietly with you. I'm a phone call away. If you need me, I'll just sit here, do whatever you need me to do. When you're ready to talk, I'm all ears. Okay, I think that's so important. We talked a lot about offering support. So the last one is the N, which is normalize help-seeking. Okay, and I think this goes back to this stigma. I think more with men. And can you see all the women in the studio audience just stood up and walked out? But but more with men, that we feel we have to internalize our problems. When we think things are going bad, we internalize them, we swallow them, and we go, they'll come out of me one day in a heart attack. But in the meantime, I'm just going to swallow them. I'm going to hold them in, and I don't want to talk to anyone. Okay, I would rather go get drunk or get in a fight and get it out of my system that way. And what we have to do is normalize help-seeking. In other words, it is important for us to find someone to talk to and express our feelings and not be afraid to cry in front of people. It's okay to go and talk to a therapist or anyone who can open up, who will allow you to open up in a safe place like that. I know growing up, it just seemed like there was a stigma for me that guys don't do that, and some women do that, but guys don't do that. And it wasn't until I got divorced that I was really, really confused, and I went and saw a therapist, and it was the coolest thing ever, because I was just like, hey, let's get through this therapy right away. I was like, I'm not taking my time on this, and I remember just falling apart in the first visit and just crying, and the therapist is like, wow, we don't normally have a breakthrough this quickly. And I'm like, well, I'm paying the copay, so I want to get through this.
Right. Gotta get your money's worth.
Yeah, exactly. But after doing that, I never would have understood how important and how strong that is, and how absolutely wonderful it is just to have someone who you can walk into and say, I'm just opening up completely and just letting it all go and just dumping it all and getting it out and getting it off my chest. That's probably one of the reasons that I do what I do when I do business coaching, and I talk to people and I say, you can talk about whatever you want with me. You can open this up. I don't want people going as deep as what you might say tell a therapist, because I'm not a therapist, but I do let them say these are the things that are bothering me at work, these are the things that are bothering me at home, and how they affect me at work, etc. But it's that type of thing, is that we all need someone to open up to. We all need someone to talk to. Okay, and it used to be, we'd go talk to the bartender or the barber. Okay, and that's what it came down to. So, do you guys have someone you can talk to?
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, more than just a punching bag, right?
Well,
yeah. You don't have to give you don't have to give a name, and you don't have to give about anything you're talking about. I just want to make sure you guys have someone that if you're saying, "Hey, life is falling apart. I just need somebody to even listen to me for 30 seconds." What about you, Nate?
I think a big thing is you don't have to have one singular person.
Oh my God, no.
To talk
Correct.
about. I think it's important to have a
good point.
Just build a group of people around you that when you are dealing with an issue,
yes,
that can talk to you, but can also relate to you on it.
Right.
Like there are a lot of things that I can open up to and talk to my wife about.
Yes.
But that if I were to talk to somebody else, it would just seem foolish, and yes. I would not be comfortable doing it. But there's also things, be it frustrations in the workplace or something along those lines, or even if I were to feel like I was falling short in my roles as a husband or something like that, that I couldn't talk to my wife about, not because she's not a great listener, but it's because you want somebody who's going to actually be able to relate to you in that sense.
From your point of view, right? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is be careful, but be willing to be vulnerable and air your frustrations, because if you don't, they will eat you alive.
Right.
They will eat away at you. And I'm very blessed in the relationship that I have with my wife, and I have a
I've met your wife. She's a good person.
She's a wonderful lady.
She is,
But I also have one of my supervisors at work, and he and I can collaborate together, and we, can work through our frustrations and talk through things together.
That's important.
And build off of each other's ideas. And it's outside of the workplace. It's out. It's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Right.
But we can kind of resound stuff off of each other, and it helps us both grow. And release frustration so that we can then go and when we're at work focus on what needs to be done. Yeah,
I think that's the most important thing. That's why I said we've got to normalize that help seeking, because there's too much. There's generations in the past that would have never done that. Mm-hmm. They would just swallow it all up and say, "I'm not going to let it go. I'll be fine." And then they die in their mid-40s. Okay, so we don't want that to happen. Yeah. All right, so with that's what we can do to help other people. But what I want to do is there's some people out there who don't feel they're ready to go out and ask for help. So there's another set of bacon here, BACON, about what we can be doing if we're feeling life is tearing us down. What should we be doing? So this bacon is quick and easy. It's going to be B is breathe, A is assess, C is challenge, O is optimize, and N is network. Okay? So what are you grinning over there for?
It's just network at the end.
Network
is funny.
It's N. Well, it's all right. Would you prefer networking? All right, but breathe is the first one. I don't know if you guys ever really do this. I find myself that it really, really works. Now I have an Apple Watch, right? So every once in a while I'll be doing nothing, right? And I'll really, literally nothing. And it'll go off and saying your heartbeat just went up really high. Like I'm going, what? What do you mean it just went up? Like what? I'm thinking. I'm not in a stressful situation. Something's going on, so I probably have some disease or something like that. So I'll hear about that from my wife when I get home. But anyway, it kicks up like that. So then I find myself that I do this breathing technique. Mm-hmm. All right, and I just you breathe in, you breathe out, you hold your breath the whole bit, and I can lower my blood pressure just by doing this. And it's amazing because I like the idea of understanding that I have control over my body to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And the more I practice, the more control I have. And we've talked a number of times on the show about the idea that if something can scare me, if I can catastrophize, and I could be visualizing the future, an awful future, to the point that I get an upset stomach, to the point where I'm sweating, I get a headache, all that kind of stuff. That means that my mind is strong enough to affect my body in a negative way, right? So my mind is strong enough to affect my body in a positive way. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like the idea of when my watch tells me, hey, something's going on, that I can sit there and kind of zen out a little bit and do this breathing exercise and just really bring it down and take that really, really deep breath. I think the thing is that what they talk about is you you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and then exhale slowly for 8 seconds. Okay? And so I have tried that multiple times, and then I'm getting stuck with counting seconds, or am I supposed to be looking at a clock, and it seems like it takes away from it. So all I end up doing is taking that really deep breath where I can really feel my lungs fill out, really deep breath, more than a usual breath. Hold it a little bit, and then exhale it very, very slowly. And I just do that over and over again. And it's just, it calms me down with whatever's bothering me. And even just general scenarios. If I'm in a scary scenario, something's bugging me for whatever reason, it's really easy just to do that breathing exercise. And that really, really works well for me. So do you guys have anything that if you're in that position in your life where it's like there's some anxiety sneaking up on you, or you're facing a tough situation, something that you do that calms you down?
I just like to, especially if I'm like in a public place, I will just sometimes go excuse myself to a restroom, because just that little bit of isolation sometimes is all you need.
That's cool. That's cool.
To be able to be to reassess, to realign yourself and just cut out the outside noise, and then be like, okay, now I can go back with a clearer head and actually settle with this. Obviously can't do this all the time, if you're in the middle of an active thing, but it's good to remember that.
And I would not necessarily suggest doing both, because there's a lot of public bathrooms you don't want to breathe heavy in. So
no, I think that's really good. I think for me, I'll even in the in the hubbub of the office, there's times where it's just phones are going off, everybody's talking, everything's going on, and I'll just stand up from my desk and I'll just walk out into the middle of our yard, and the middle of the yard's quiet, and I'll just look out at all the trailers and everything and just kind of collect myself and go back in. And I used to have to do it all the time. I'd be wired up and fired up, but now I've gotten better. But even still, there's just today, I was sitting at my desk and I was like, you know what, I need to just take a moment and go out and relax. But I do like the bathroom thing. I will every once in a while, if I know I can't afford to walk that far away, if I just step in there. And it's sometimes just even looking at yourself in the mirror and just kind of focusing on yourself just brings a sense of you're alive, it's fine, it'll be okay. Just take a moment, and then you go back in it. And it can really do something for you.
Sure. It's reminding me of you brought up your lovely wife, my daughter. There was a time years ago when she was a little girl, probably in first or second grade, something like that. So this was many years ago. Not that many years ago, just a few years ago. But anyway,
an appropriate number of years ago.
An appropriate number of years ago, right. But I had this horrific thing happen at work. It was just to the point, I was in an argument with somebody who I was furious, and I could just feel my heart beating. I mean, I went to my office, I wanted to punch the wall. I was just really upset. And I sat in my office and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call Katie's school. I'm going to call the school and just tell them I need to talk to her. Wow. Okay? Because at that moment in time, the only thing that came to my head that would calm me down was that just connecting with her and just talking with her. And, can you imagine, I didn't actually call the school, but can you imagine calling the school and they were like, well, she's in class right now. This is second grade. I just need to talk to her for a second. Daddy needs to calm down, Katie. Tell me something nice, right? But just the idea that it came to my head that was this calming moment for me, knowing that if I talked to her, it was a calming moment. And just thinking about that I have that possibility. And when I went home, I would see her. And that in itself was something that brought me down again. So that was a beautiful thing to do. Yeah. So everyone just needs that. So you're a lucky guy because you get to do this every day, Nate.
Oh,
okay.
I'm blessed.
Yes, you are. All right. So that's the breathing and these other coping mechanisms. I like this. The next one is assess. All right. In other words, it's this idea I talked about taking that helicopter view of life, assess it and saying, why am I allowing this to make me feel this awful? Why am I making this ruin my day? And I think we just have to sometimes, some people can do this easier than others, where you just kind of go, this is silly. I am letting this one little incident ruin my entire day. As opposed to, for me, again, I would rather laugh at it and go, this is silly that I'm doing this, and laugh at myself and the situation. So do you guys ever do any of that, assessing the situation? Does that help you? A little bit, and you're not at each other?
No, I think so. There'll be moments where something will happen. I can just feel myself getting frustrated, and then I just have to, you just go, and you're like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right,
like, it's not. And that's something I try to pass on to the people that are underneath me at work. I go, we have all these scenarios. We have all these options. Yes, this exact moment is frustrating, but in the grand scheme, even like not even of our lives, just of our day to day. This is so trivial. Don't let that be what sets the tone for the rest of your day.
The rest of the day, right? Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Because I always say we have the ability to change ourselves. We don't really have the ability to change other people. We can nudge them.
Yeah.
But when somebody does something to us and it pisses us off, upsets us, and then we allow it to ruin our entire day, that's on us. Yeah. Okay?
What's interesting, though, is people, wherever we are all the time, are watching us.
Yes.
And you can set the tone, and you can be the influence. And it doesn't even matter, like, where you are in, your job title or your family or anything. Everyone is watching everyone else. And if they see something that they maybe would have handled as a catastrophe, and you just kind of being positive in the way you look at it and the way you handle it, the way they go on, a lot of times, a lot of people go, wow. And that's going to do more than you being like, hey, don't freak out about that thing. But them seeing you react that way.
I like that. That's a very good point.
And by the same token, when they see you freak out or like lose your mind about something that's maybe trivial, you can actually, in their mind, they go, oh, that was a bit much, I think,
Yes, so right. Especially, I think they learn a lot about you when they watch you catastrophize.
Right. Yeah, you forget that just everyone is watching you all the time to some extent, and so you can be that positive force in others without even saying a word to them.
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this next letter was C, was challenge yourself, and that's really what it comes down to, is challenge yourself, ask yourself the questions of, is this the thing that's really bugging me? Because when we assess the situation, going, the guy cut me off in traffic, and now it's on the way to work, and now it's lunch, and I'm still upset. Was that the thing that was upsetting me, or was it something else? So challenge yourself. Ask yourself, come on, there's got to be something else, so you can dig down deeper inside. And it's easier sometimes for us to do that. Which leads us to O, which is optimize. And what I mean by that is this whole idea is take a look and try to find some balance in your life, and put extra effort or concentration or optimize those things that bring us joy, and say, you know what, in a daily life, in a every day, there are more things that bring me joy than bring me any type of anger, hatred, fear, or embarrassment, anything like that. The things are that. So concentrate more on that, which is one of the reasons I made that worksheet called the happiness worksheet, that I really want everyone in the world I hope people can download it and share it. That's on my website, masterhappiness.com. Whenever you see the little pink pig, Bacon the Pig, you click on that, and that opens that PDF, a happiness worksheet, which will teach people to really optimize and look at what's great in their life, as opposed to what's the sorrowful stuff. Okay. Now, I just want to jump, because I'm looking at the time. We're getting to the top of the hour, so I want to jump into this one that Luke is very excited about, and that's the N, is network. So this bacon has been breathe, assess, challenge, optimize, and network. Uh-huh. So networking, Luke, is, I think, falls in line with what you were saying, Nate, and that is when you network and you surround yourself with other people, as opposed to being alone. because I like your idea where both of you are saying sometimes you just break away from the crowd, take a moment by yourself, but don't make that the natural excuse or the natural reaction. In other words, if I can take 30 seconds away from people and that's good, then if I stay away from people for 2 days, it's even better. Instead, no, get with people, because you will find that everyone else goes through problems similar to yours, and you will also be introduced to problems that are greater than yours, and it'll allow you to look at yourself and go, ooh, I really was making a mountain out of a molehill. That was not that big of a problem. And helping other people with their problems, listening and empathizing will help you through that just a little bit more. Okay. Would you guys consider yourselves big support people? Like you're there for your friends and strangers alike?
I think it's tough. I think I like to consider myself a loyal person.
Okay.
As in, if somebody called me up in the middle of the night and was like, I need to bury a body,
yeah.
I'm there.
Okay.
But if they call me up and they say, hey, I'm dealing with this thing, and it's more on the emotional plane,
yeah.
I have a harder time.
Sure.
With that,
yeah.
So I will try, but sometimes it's just me patting on the back, going, "That's tough. That's
right.
What you're dealing with, right now."
And
that's something that I want to be better at, just in every aspect of my life, is being able to relate to somebody without being condescending or seeming fake.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you, because I think, like you explained, you're a fixer. You want to find the solution and move on, and I find the same way. And so when I'm doing that same thing of going, I'm just here to hear you out and listen to you, and I'm sitting here and going, I have the solution, but you're not ready for it. I'm sitting there, then I'm going, I feel like this is bugging me. Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I just want to hear myself talk. That's why I'm on the radio.
There you go. What do you think I'm here for, right?
Exactly.
All right. What about you there, Luke? As far as networking, would you consider yourself a good person? You said you're a good listener, and so are you the type of person people want to lean on?
I would like to consider that.
You're not.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Go ahead.
I would like to consider myself a good support person, and actually, for example, I want to support you.
Thank you.
Because I actually I went through to the liberty of searching up quotes, because Tiffany.
Oh, did you?
I wish someone had to.
Yeah, I'm glad.
It wasn't going to be me.
I mean, because we're at the top of the hour, but we have time for a couple.
I have 3 quotes for.
All right, let's do them quick.
Here.
Thank you.
From Albert Camus. Author of The Stranger. I think this is from The Stranger. You always get exaggerated notions about things you don't know anything about.
Oh, that's great. That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wish that was your quote, because we would use that on a T-shirt. But we might anyway, as long as we give him credit.
All right.
Okay.
The top of the hour. So let's
shoot.
The other one
no
I have
explanation.
is darkness.
Yeah.
Exaggerates the size of a spark.
Oh, wow. Who said that?
Oh, boy. Moko Noana.
Oh, I went through practiced this.
I went through this with
it, and that's what we came up with.
I was like,
Nice. Okay, cool. He's one of our listeners, so that's perfect. Thank you.
But I worried that one might be a little poetic for our listeners. So
no,
I went with this last one.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is my favorite. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy.
Wow, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
That's from the group Eagles.
Nice.
Off their hit, Take It Easy.
Okay, so then I want to end it with a quote that I wrote, and that is, remember, it's not always a catastrophe. Sometimes it's just a conundrum disguised as a calamity.
Wow.
There you go.
At risk of sounding like a suck-up, I kind of like that one.
All right. With that, thank you so much. Anyone out there, remember, it's not as bad as you think. And if it is as bad as you think, then you're halfway to solving the problem. Okay? Are you digging that? Mm-hmm. All right. So with that, I want to say ta-ta for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. And tune in next week. We're going to be tackling some other problem, and we're going to solve the problem with bacon. Until then, thank you so much. This has been Marty Jalove on Bacon Bits with Master Happiness and WRLR 98.3. Say goodnight, Nate and Luke.
Good night,
Nate and Luke.
Bye-bye.